You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by tastytrade. You take the unbeaten path. You root for the away team. You wear shorts in winter. You don't put ketchup on a hot dog. So why wouldn't you trade with a broker that lets you go your own way? tastytrade. Stocks, options, futures, and more. You choose. You trade. Chart moves with hundreds of custom indicators. Stare at the candles till you see them in your sleep. See it, click it, trade it on mobile, web, or desktop. Supported by a trade desk that knows how traders think. The data, the tools, the knowledge. Get what you need to make smart moves. Go to tastytrade.com/pod to see for yourself, genius. tastytrade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time to commence operations here on the old Options Insider Radio Network for a shortened holiday week. Hope you're getting all your Thanksgiving turkey and trimmings and everything ready here in the U.S., getting ready to spend some quality time with friends and family. Don't worry. We have 17 years of archived content ready for you if you need to take a break from said friends and family as well. Of course, we do kick off our broadcast week with everyone's favorite bi-weekly options source known around the globe as the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the THE OptionsInsider.com, as well as, of course, from the aforementioned network. A couple of things to remind you of here at the top of the show. First off, it is a shortened holiday week, so obviously no TWIFO, no episode 2 of the Option Block because it is Thursday, it is Thanksgiving here in the U.S., so no shows then. Friday, of course, has become a semi-national holiday in terms of Black Fridays. I'm not a monster. I'm not going to make friends and people come in on that show. Plus, you're going to be out there elbowing grandmas in the face for deals at 5 in the morning. Not going to be listening to us. So, no shows on Friday, but we will be back again for the Monday episode of OB next week to break down all the holiday madness. So, a lot to get to here at the start of the show. Speaking of the start of the show, let me introduce, of course, who's joining me today. The uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, as well as a rare Monday appearance by the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Let's hope he put his 80s wrestling hat on, listeners, because it is time to commence our shortened holiday broadcast week in high style. It is time for the 80s Wrestling Trivia Challenge. Here we go. All right, everybody. This was a tough one this week. Trying to find a Thanksgiving-themed 80s wrestling bit of trivia. No mean feat. I challenge you to do the same thing, listeners. I ended up stumbling upon something that technically is not within the purview of the 80s, but when you hear it, you will realize that it does kind of fall in its shadow, because we are going now not to Thanksgiving in the 80s, but actually Thanksgiving, indeed November 22nd of 1990, the year that immediately followed the end of the 80s, to my old stomping grounds, the Hartford Civic Center over there in Hartford, Connecticut, for an event that would become both legendary in pro wrestling circles as well as infamous. Because, listeners, there were 2 debuts at this show. One, again, legendary, arguably the greatest pro wrestler of all time. Some might say, just retired a year or 2 ago, debuted at that show. His name, during the 80s when he wrestled, was Mean Mark Callis, but he debuted at this show in the WWF at the time as the one, the only, The Undertaker, at Survivor Series November 1990. But there was a second debut on that card that, let's say, was nowhere near as legendary, but far more infamous. 2 things debuted at that show. In fact, if you listen to The Undertaker and some of his retirement stuff, he said he thought when he came in WWF, he was going to actually be this other thing. He was worried about that. Turned out he was not. And he ended up becoming The Undertaker, and we all know what happened there. But I put it out to you now, the Uncleist of Mikes, as well as the Rockingest of Lobsters. I see no buzzes, so I'm guessing maybe even Uncle Mike might be a little stumped. What was arguably the far more infamous, the far more legendarily bad debut that occurred at Survivor Series around Thanksgiving in 1990? I'm just going to put it out. Okay, Rock Lobster, if you want to guess, I'll let you go first because Uncle Mike's not buzzing.
All right, my guess is it's the first time somebody hit somebody with a chair in professional wrestling.
That's not a bad guess, actually. Given you and your knowledge of pro wrestling, that is not a bad guess. The answer, no, that is not that. But I will give you, tell you what, for a half bonus point, take a guess. Just guess an 80s wrestler that you thought appeared on Survivor Series 1990. I'll tell you if you're right.
80s wrestler, like the Macho Man?
Yes, Macho Man was there. I think he called out Ultimate Warrior. So there you go. Half points. I knew you knew 3 guys, and this was 1990. They were all still going. So I thought you had a good chance. There you go. Half point for the Rock Lobster. Decent for the cheer, actually, too. I'll give you that. All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, I will now turn to you. I noticed you did not buzz, so I'm guessing you do not know this. The legendary debut in Survivor Series 1990 was the legendary Undertaker himself. Obviously, spanned 3 decades, legendary career. Actually wrestled in the 80s as well as Mean Mark Callis, so technically he was an 80s wrestler, but I digress. But Mr. Uncle Mike, who, or should I even say as a hint, what else debuted at Survivor Series 1990 that was infamously terrible and everyone hated instantly, forevermore?
Well, I literally had my hand on the buzz button when he said debut, and I was going to say The Undertaker, but then when you said The Undertaker, that kind of took away my thunder. I had a wrestler in mind of who could have made a debut, but now you just made it what debuted. Gosh. I'm going to go with, even though I know you said what, I'm just going to say Sid Vicious.
He would be a person. He would not be a what. No.
I know. I can't think of a what.
When Undertaker came into the ring that day or that night, there was a huge egg in the ring. Do you recall that?
I do not.
Yes. There was a huge egg which had been teased on WWF programming for months. Everyone was wondering who was going to come out of the egg. Undertaker, when he was hired, thought he was going to come out of the egg. He was very worried. Am I going to be in the egg? No, it turns out he was the Undertaker. And instead, what came out of the egg is perhaps the worst thing to ever come out of WWF. And that's saying a lot, because WWF did some bad stuff. They obviously, Red Rooster is infamous for the worst gimmick, but this also is up there as the worst gimmick of all time. It is the Gobbledy Gooker. Mr. Uncle Mike, do you recall that? In fact, right now, as a bit of a tip of the cap to that, I think Mattel just released a 2-pack of figures, one with Undertaker and one with the Gooker and the egg. Just came out.
Oh, boy.
It's a legendarily bad 2-pack. I kind of want it just for the Gooker. But yes, there was, I don't know what they were thinking. There was picture this, listeners, as weird as wrestling is. And Andrew, this is going to blow your mind for wrestling as well. As weird as professional wrestling, you already had a guy debuting as a dead man on that same show. But also you had a giant egg in the ring. And that had been sitting there, I guess, for months, waiting and waiting. And finally, Survivor Series comes along. The egg bursts open, and a giant human-sized, I guess you can only call it rooster-type character came out. And that's what they actually debuted at this event. And it was infinitely booed by the fans. Everyone hated it. And it kind of immediately went away and never came. I think for once they had a gimmick battle royale years later and they brought back the Gobbledy Gooker. But there you go. 2 legendary debuts that night. One legendary for all the right reasons. One perhaps legendary, more accurately infamous for all the wrong reasons. Did you guess the Gobbledy Gooker, listeners? How many 80s wrestling trivia around Thanksgiving can we do? None better, I argue, than the Gobbledy Gooker as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
I think Uncle Mike might have to win a Gobbledy Gooker 2-pack if he wins the Pro Wrestling Chat, just so we can always have a reminder of failing to get points. The Rock Lobster got half a point. Uncle Mike, nothing. Shameful, shameful. You know what else is kind of shameful? I guess not really. They're drifting up more now, the markets. They were kind of drifting earlier. Now they're starting to move with a little bit more authority. Of course, to the green, because why not? S&P, NASDAQ, and Dow all up today. Listen, S&P up about 0.2%, Dow up about 0.5%. NASDAQ up a full 1%. Some of that coming on the love, I guess, for Microsoft, all this OpenAI drama that's unfolding over the weekend. A lot to unpack there. But all this green on the screen, and, of course, this truncated holiday week means our vol friends taking a bit of a break. VIX at about 1365 when we kicked off the show, down about 0.6 of a point. VVIX at an 81, down about 0.3 of a point. VXX 18.25, down about 0.75 of a point. UVXY 11 even, down half a point. SVIX 3280, up 1.2 points. And UVIX 1960, below a 20 handle now, listeners, down 1.8 points. Man, what were they, 23 half puts, I think, now seem like crazy in the money puts. I bought them not too long ago, and those are pretty far out of the money when I bought them. So, man, this thing can move to the downside, listeners. All right, a lot to unpack. Mr. Rock Lobster, you surprised us all with a spirited performance, let us say, in the 80s wrestling trivia block. So let's go to you first, sir. What's catching your eye in a kind of, I guess, shrug your shoulders kind of start to the Thanksgiving holiday week, sir?
I don't think I've ever outperformed TOSAW in the trivia challenge, even though, granted, I got a little help. But still, it doesn't happen very often.
I had a feeling he might struggle on the Gobbledy Gooker. That was a deep cut.
The Gobbledy Gooker. Well, it was impressive. He just knew that The Undertaker debuted that day. So that I myself was impressed by that depth of knowledge.
That's too easy. That's too easy for Uncle Mike. We got to go deeper. We got to go Gooker.
I guess so. When you're dealing with that, level of expertise, I don't think I have that level of expertise in anything. Come to think of it, let me see. No, I don't. Anyway. Mark, yeah. Are we laughing at the Vol products right now?
We can laugh at whatever you want, sir. It's your time.
How unperforming? I think it was like 2 weeks ago. UVIX was just 40, and now it's 19.
So it seems like it was probably less than 2 weeks ago. It was yesterday. Why not?
Yes. So, you have, and again, like you have it where, it's Monday and volatility's down today, right? So the vol market is really good at pricing what they already know is going to happen, which basically the VIX December future's been about $0.50 low or $0.75 low for a month. And it's because of the holidays. And I guess because we had this earlier Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff. And eventually VIX will, everything will kind of move a little bit more back in line after the holiday days go away. But, but it's compressing everything because of the days off. If you don't have a trading day, the market adjusts that by moving the day forward, and it looks like a much lower volatility, which is why you get kind of these strange, very low forward vols or lower futures for VIX. So, which also means, though, you have less forward vol to sell than you normally do. So the December contract has been a little inexpensive. because of that. And now another thing too is, are we going to get some single digit vols? Because I mean, this is about as low as we've been, since the summertime for VIX. So I mean, at this point, I think the market is looking for other stocks to buy, although I would not fade the big Q stocks, even though the valuations are getting, you can say it all you want, but they could keep going up, right? There's no real upside to it until they decide to go down. But I think folks that have missed the rallies are looking at, like IWM and a lot of smaller stocks, and some gambling stocks are moving today. Retail stocks moved last week. Heck, every stock in Argentina moved. The guy with the crazy hair getting elected. So I think some money is starting to go to some places that the market, everybody's forgotten about. Maybe there's a little bit more confidence in the economy not having a recession. So, and then normally what happens is all the other stocks that are not as sexy, money starts to flow to. So that looks like what's happening today in a few different sectors, I would say. But IWM is up another 1% today. Are they up on the year at this point? I think it's that 5% rally got them up for the year, as I recall. I just wanted to see here. Pretty sure, because I know, they're almost, they're even for the year. So if you're looking for some performance, you could, IWM is about even for the year, was as high as 200. So there's plenty of room for it to rip a little bit. So I would say, if you're looking for some value, maybe some of those mid-tier stocks, that might just possibly benefit from the AI revolution. Now, we all know NVIDIA will, and I think that will be the biggest driver, right? So if NVIDIA has pretty good earnings, at least the market likes it, then all of a sudden, we get those animal spirits again like we had in July, August, when AI was everything, and the sky is blue and the sun is yellow and everything is flying. So I guess we'll get a further confirmation when that happens. So, but, this is, I say, a pretty typical Thanksgiving week. After trading 15 of these on the floor, they're all pretty much were the same. I think there might have been one or two exceptions. And doing this the last 30 years, they're all usually about the same. Although I guess that one Thanksgiving week, we had that massive rally after the Euro crash. That was at 2011. And I'm trying to think of another Thanksgiving area that was a little more exciting. But right now, realized vols are dropping a little bit. VIX is dropping a little bit. And the S&P 500 is 60 points from 4,600. What are you going to do?
You are going to say crazy. That's Gobbledy Gooker talk right there, sir. That's what you're saying out there with all this madness out there in the market. You know who doesn't have any Gobbledy Gooker talk? It is the unclest of Mike's who failed to score on our Gobbledy Gooker Thanksgiving Day edition. Mr. Uncle Mike, A, what do you have to say for yourself? And B, what's catching your eye? And yet another Uncle Mike type of day.
You know what? I could also say there were really technically 3 debuts then that night, because wouldn't Paul Bear also be a debut that night?
I guess if you want to throw him in there as well. But he does go hand in hand with The Undertaker. You can say the Urn at that point, too. 4th debut. There we go.
Well, you're saying an egg, so why can't I say an Urn and Paul Bear? So there's 2 half points for me.
Okay. We shall see.
Anyway, no, I think this week it shows that it's such a slow week in the market when we're have extended talks about the Survivor Series like we do. I think that it's like this every year, the week of a holiday. I mean, something could happen. It could make the market go, but we're not going to get a lot of movement this week unless it's some type of abnormality. People are hanging out with families, getting yelled at by their wives, and chasing kids around right now. No one wants to trade at this stage of the year. And so I think that we'll get not a ton of movement. We'll get some more movement a few weeks after Thanksgiving, and then things will slow down going into the end of the year. We may or may not get the Santa Claus rally we ask about every year. But for right now, this is the beginning of the holiday season and not expecting a ton of movement. But what can happen is that certain things can kind of sneak up behind your back, and that's what you need to be mindful of when watching markets that appear to be boring. Sometimes stuff happens. And so am I expecting a lot of activity? Like I said, no. But sometimes things can move when you're not expecting them. So does this mean to just shut your screens off and stop trading? No. If you have positions on, you need to be watching them. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Uncle Mike watching his positions on behalf of all of you listeners, so you guys can go off and have fun and buy your sweet Gobbledy Gooker 2-packs with The Undertaker. Get it under the tree now, listeners, before they sell out. All right, let's see if anything's selling out there in the markets today. Let's start in the major indices. And you know what? For a kind of sleepy holiday week, this actually isn't bad paper, especially if you start in VIX land. 402,000 contracts on the tape in VIX right now, listeners. Like, I got to admit, I did not expect 400K on the tape when I fired up VIX not too long ago. I thought it would be maybe $180, something like that. You see the ADV right now is right around 750,000. So 400K, we're north of halfway there already, which is kind of interesting in and of itself. Looks like the big dog today are about 26,000 of the D's 14 puts, followed by 21,000 of the D's 18 calls. A little bit of maybe a risk reversal or a strangle there. Interesting. Which of those would you rather have in your back pocket, listeners, if you had to buy one? D's 14 put or a D's 18 call? Could be a fun flash pull to do out there, in addition to our kind of fun one we have going on. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, yeah, ADV, about 750,000. Probably not going to budge this week unless we get some banger days heading into Thursday, of course. And then SPY, 4.25 million, which is about what you'd expect on a normal day. Maybe a little light. Maybe you expect around 4.5. But still, 4.25, nothing to sneeze at in SPY. The ADV, about 8.75 million. The S, also respectable, 1.65 million. ADV, 3.43 million. It's going to take a lot to slow that spigot of zero-day flow out there in the S. People just gobbling it up. Small caps, IWM, we were just talking about them. Small caps, we've been joking about UVIX as the untamed, unchainable beast. But small caps kind of marching to the beat of their own drummer. Today, kind of falling back into line. Today, up about 0.2% as well. So moving kind of in lockstep with the other major indices. The small caps have been quite the saga to watch. Hopefully you checked out our This Week in Futures Options episode from last week, where I kind of held court on all things RUT options. It was the most active day we've ever seen, and we were talking about RUT weekly on that show for a long time, for years. So to see 55, 60,000 contracts, whatever it was, going up out there, may not sound a lot when you're talking about, the E-mini and 3-month SOFR and all these things that can do millions of contracts. But for RUT, that usually tops out 10, 12,000, maybe a good week, 20, maybe if it's a banger week, 25,000. Well over 50,000, that's a banger week for RUT. So a lot going on out there, and interesting stuff out there in IWM today. 523,000, so not even a third of its ADV, which is 1.85 million, so not going to hit it today probably. And the Qs, though, 1.93 million, so almost exactly halfway to their ADV, which is about exactly 4 million. So, again, I think a more active day than you could rightfully have expected coming in. Let's see if we've got that on the tape in single name land, and the answer is no. It cost us 184,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today, but then again, this week is kind of analogous to late August or even late December in terms of seasonality. So you might be forgiven for expecting maybe $1.52 to break into the top 10. So I guess in that lens, 184, a little bit respectable. That gets us to a Marathon Digital Holdings popping 7% today, or 70 cents, trading 1070. So Marathon, it's all things crypto is just on fire right now, listeners, on just the news, the inkling, the whisper, the hope that this ETF is going to be approved, which of course leads us to our question of the week, which just went live a few minutes ago. Asking you folks right now, let's have a little Thanksgiving week fun. It seems like everyone is buying crypto in anticipation of the new spot ETF coming this year, but we'll put it up to you. Quite simply, will the new spot Bitcoin ETF be approved this year? Very simple. Yes or no. No silly third answer like I hate crypto or Uncle Mike's a jerk or any of that kind of stuff we always throw in there. None of that. Just straight up yes or no this week. Just went live right before showtime, listeners. We'll, of course, get more into that later on this show and, of course, upcoming on the crypto rundown a little bit later today. So yeah, all things crypto kind of rising from the depths out there. Most of that on the heels of the anticipated spot ETF. And of course, carried along with that, we have Marathon Digital Holdings, ticker symbol MARA, number 10, 184,000 contracts today. And again, this one, we've looked at the numbers, we polled you folks. This is far and away your preferred crypto options surrogate, beating Riot, beating even BITO, which is more of a one-to-one type trading vehicle for BITO or Bitcoin. So yeah, interesting stuff. Marathon making it into the top 10. You know, crypto's moving when Marathon's sneaking in there. Number 9, listeners, Chip Zone coming way early today. It's AMD, number 9, 203,000 contracts. AMD up about $0.50 or about 0.5%, trading 121.20 right now. Number 8, we were joking on the Thursday show, is $19.99 all over again. Well, with number 8, it certainly is. It's Intel. Number 8, 220,000 contracts. And again, good for the number 8 spot. Intel up about $0.0075 or 1.75%, trading right around 44.5 right now, taking the number 8 spot. Number 7, we're fast forwarding to the modern era. This is the artist formerly known as Facebook. It's Meta, 243,000 contracts. So number 7, we're not even north of 250,000 contracts. So again, it's a truncated holiday week, listeners. Meta, 338 3/4, up about 3 3/4, or a little over 1% today. Number 6, it's the Amazonians, listeners. Amazon coming in hot at 332,000 contracts for the number 6 spot. Amazon right now, 146 and about a half, up about $1.33, or nearly 1% on the day out there. Number 5, a bit of a sleepy spot for this name. This is the tip of the AI spear these days. This is NVIDIA. Only coming in at number 5 today, 421,000. It's only up a paltry $6 or 1.2%, up exactly $6 right now. Trading 498, so 98 right now, actually. So just a tick under 499. So yeah, $6. It's a quiet, sleepy day for NVIDIA. Only good for number 5, 421,000 contracts. Number 4, talked about this one a few times. Oh man, they're popping hard again today. This is Palantir. We were joking not too long ago. Is it going to hit 20? Well, yeah, it's north of 20 now. 21.43, up nearly $1 today, or 4.5%. Not sure what's going on. This is the highest close for them in 2 years, if they close up here. Is this all this AI madness, all this drama going on? Is it driving this up? Not sure what's driving it up. More buyers and sellers at the end of the day. But Palantir on the rampage. Good for number 4, 452,000 contracts. Number 3, listeners, it's the fruit company. Yeah, it's Apple. 525,000 contracts. 191 and about a half right now. Up nearly $2. So put in that shy of 170 level. Was that not too long ago? Got down to, what was it, 169 and change? 166.89 actually. Right around Halloween. Now 191 and a half. So putting that in the rearview mirror. Again, good for number 3, 525,000 contracts up there. Number 2, you probably heard about this crazy drama this weekend. Microsoft, 583, popping hard, 8 3/4, trading 378.60 right now, or about 2.4%. All off this drama with OpenAI. I've always thought it was weird. It's called OpenAI, but it has size corporate investors like Microsoft who clearly have no interest in making an open and readily available product. They have an interest in making a very commercially viable product, which is not the same thing as being open. So I always found that name OpenAI a bit of a misnomer. It's a way to make their potentially dangerous product sound a little bit less threatening. Oh, it's open. Everyone can play. And apparently that culture clash between commercialization and safety and everything else was kind of came to loggerheads this weekend with the ousting of their CEO. He's now going to Microsoft, who was one of their major investors. So now there's talk that Microsoft may kind of spin up their own AI division. They already have some of that, obviously. I have to have a big investment in OpenAI as well. But now maybe spinning more of that up internally, taking some of what he knows and building out their own. So maybe having a bit of a competitive relationship with the thing they invest in. A lot of just endless drama. Also good for apparently endless volume for Microsoft today. 583,000 contracts. So folks are apparently liking, this reminds me of when the Chewy guy went to GameStop and all that things that popped off. Just the news of an executive shift, listeners, is all it takes for the big poppage in the stock. What's the big dog out there? Microsoft today, 55,000 of the Nove 380s expiring this week. So these are in the weeklies. And then 36,000 of the Nove 375. So 375 is now in the money. 380s not looking that distant now, about $1.50 away. So are you in on this whole upside explosion in Microsoft here? A lot of people are, to the tune of 583,000. And then number one, listeners, you know what it is. Takes a lot to dethrone the king. Ain't going to happen today. It's Tesla, 234 even, off about a third today. Interesting reports coming out. I'm not sure if it was the Journal. Who was it? Just talking about the overall softening for EV demand. Inventories are stockpiling. Everyone's having to slash prices. Tesla most infamously, but everyone else is kind of having to follow suit, and talking about how the average price for an EV a year ago versus today has come in dramatically, and maybe showing that demand has plateaued a little bit. Average sales, I think, per month has been around 100,000 and hasn't really grown in a while. So interesting stuff out there. But again, not enough to shake the Tesla tree, only off about a third today, but good for about 1.2 million contracts and the overall number one spot. You know, it's a truncated holiday week. Not going to be a banger earnings week. That said, it's not to be written off casually, listeners. There are some names popping off, including today after the bell. We got Zoom. Remember them? Darling of the pandemic era. Couldn't get enough Zoom. Everyone had to buy themselves some Zoom. These days, maybe not so much. But they are popping off after the bell today. Also got everyone's favorite, Trip.com. And tomorrow before the bell, Kohl's. And then Best Buy before the bell as well as Burlington and Dick's. So we got some names popping off. American Eagle, Medtronic for the devices, Lowe's after the bell tomorrow. A name you may have heard of called NVDA, everyone's obsessed with. So there's some names popping off this week. So if you are not paying attention to earnings this week, you're missing a whole bunch going off this week. John Deere before the bell on Wednesday. So a lot popping off. And luckily for you folks, because we like you, we got a little bit of the old updated earnings move results, and earnings season reports, courtesy of our friends out there in Orat's land. Let's see what's popping off. Let's go to Zoom first. Zoom is popping off today after the bell. They were trading right around $64 when we ran this report. They were pricing in $5.58. In the past, they moved $5.37. So a little bit of extra juice, but not much. You know, if you've been listening to the show for a while, listening during this season, the narrative has been more juice. And it seems like that's mostly worked out. But Zoom pricing in a little bit, a sprinkling, a dash of extra juice. I think their more juice explosive days may be a little bit behind them, but we'll see. Maybe it'll surprise everyone. Let's go out to everyone's favorite listeners. It's the old Best Buy. People have been ringing the death knell of this one for a long time. Will it be this cycle? We shall see. They're the 21st before the bell. 68 1/4 is where they were trading when we ran these numbers. They're pricing in 4 3/4. In the past, they moved 4.08. So not bad. A fair amount of extra juice out there in Best Buy. Best Buy kind of unched right now as we're looking at it here. So intriguing stuff. Dick's Sporting Goods, another interesting one to watch out there. Seems like there's a Dick's on just about every street corner these days. So in the era of the death of big box retail, Dick's has kind of expanded for a bit. They're before the bell, 21st. 118 and about a dime is where they were trading. They were pricing in $10.37. In the past, they moved $9.86. So a wee bit extra juice as well. So intriguing stuff out there. Maybe not, $2 worth of extra juice, but 51 cents. That's nothing. That's nothing to sneeze at out there at the end of the day. And let's go on. Let's go to the name a lot of you are waiting for. Let's go to NVIDIA, listeners. 21st after the bell. 453 is where they were when we ran this report. Let's just see where they are right now for comparison. They probably moved $8, this name. Yeah, they're $4.99 right now. So they moved 6 handles just since we ran this report. On NVIDIA. Good stuff. They are pricing in $35.92. In the past, they've moved $32.28. So that's a fair amount of extra juice, $3.70 roughly. And again, for NVIDIA, it's kind of a bit of a rounding error. Can you argue at this point that any amount of juice is too much juice in NVIDIA? I'm not going to say it's quite GameStop-y levels of meme stock land, but the movement we've already seen out there, it defies all logical explanation. So at what level is too much vol in this name? I dare you to quantify that. We all said 1,000 vol can never happen in a single name, and then 2021 came along. So madness can unfold at any moment, listeners. Let's go out. Let's see. We got a couple more here. Let's go to, we just mentioned John Deere. Let's go to Deere on the 22nd before the bell. 384.15 is where they were when we crunched these numbers. These are also, this one's already moved a bit as well. They're 381.43 right now, so they've already moved quite a bit. That's probably why they're pricing in $16.66. That may sound rich, and that is, but when compared to its previous movements of 18.5 bucks, a John Deere actually bucking the trend, taking nearly $2 off the top of their straddle. That's interesting. So expecting a little bit less juice and a little bit less movement out there in John Deere. So if you thought this was going to be a sleepy earnings week, I say look again, listeners. And lucky for you, because we like you folks, we got all this data for you, including the earnings season report, which is hanging out right now with 689 names reporting at 110%. So still looking a little frothy compared to where we were at about exactly par. You can see all this for yourselves. TheOptionsInsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab, because we like you folks, completely for free, as it's time to keep on rolling and unleash the beast that is the Eye of Sauron. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's get weird, let's get wild, let's unleash the beast, see what it fixes its gaze upon. And Mr. Rock Lobster, we have to start by actually turning our gaze backwards to Thursday's show. Can you remember, sir, all the way back to the heady days of last Thursday? We were all so young and innocent, sir. Can you recall that far back?
I think it was funny because we were just talking about my lack of being able to remember anything anymore. So, but I can remember Thursday, we had the sweet sounds of Henry Schwartz.
Yes, the Flow Master. The Flow Master, crushing it on Thursday. He brought up a little name we've talked about maybe once or twice before in the past, but it's been a while on the network. This is Grupo Financiero Galicia S.A., ticker symbol GGAL. GGAL. It's the GGAL. But this is, of course, as you mentioned, the Argentinian Financial Services Holding Company. Easy for me to say. Say that one 5 times fast, listeners. We talked about it, kind of a weird one, but also, as you may have been aware, some stuff popping off in that neck of the woods this weekend, including a big election. And the Flow Master was all over the this GGAL Palooza, in particular, talking about somebody loving the DEES 14 calls going up 8,700 times in a big block. Paper gobbling those up for 45 cents, listeners. The stock at the time, $11.95. They liked it so much they came back in for nearly 6,000 more. They did a total of a little over 14,000 on the day. So, yeah, it was a pretty popular strike, 14,000 of the DEES 14s. That's nothing to sneeze at. And lo and behold, Mr. Rock Lobster, it seems like someone may have known something, or at least suspected something, because, man, these are looking good today. GGAL right now, listeners, $15.15. So popping up over $3 on the news of the electoral victory over the weekend. And it looks like Mr. Rock Lobster, unlike most of our other friends and compatriots out there who get a move in their favor and they sit on it, it looks like this person or people decided not to sit on their hands and at least taken some of this off the top. Looks like they dumped already today roughly 6,000 of these for around $1.50. So that's pretty much a 3-banger, listeners. They put them on for close to 50 cents, took them off for $1.50. So on that initial print, if they get rid of all of them, you're talking a little over $900,000 in their back pocket. So obviously not all of those have not closed yet. I'll go check again to see while the Rock Lobster is talking if more of these have gone up. But in particular, Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts on a little bit of a home run here in everyone's favorite Argentinian financial services name?
And then I think, obviously a good trade and somebody betting on the outcome. And I don't recall that guy being favored in the polls either. I'm trying to do a little more research on that subject. But it was the more, I don't even know what you call them. Conservative, far right. I don't know, whatever. Let's just call it an interesting populist. How about that? But every stock in Argentina is upsized today. So clearly somebody making a smart bet on the outcome of the election and how how that would play in the equity market. It could. I'm just saying, could presage something in this election next year, but who knows? But I think it looks like a little, but clearly election-oriented results for everything, and there was a little even spillover effect into other South American equities like Valley and stuff like that, and PBR stocks that we have seen here from time to time. So interesting results. We'll just call it a right wave took over Argentina, at least for the first time in quite a while, actually.
And you're right. He is an interesting looking fellow. The hair is certainly out. He looks like, as he terms himself, an anarcho-libertarian economist. If I picture that in my head, he looks kind of like what I would picture. So just an intriguing looking fellow.
Or what's it? The Wolfman guy in X-Men. Who's the Hugh Jackman?
Hugh Jackman, Wolverine. Yeah, a little bit of that.
Wolverine. Yeah, he looks not as handsome, but in that general area.
Get his hair to stick up a little bit on the sides. Yeah, I could totally see that. A nice stash, a nice cigar, saying a little bit of bub. I could certainly see that out there. By the way, my producer's pointing out to me, listeners, we do have an earnings move results report. Upcoming earnings report, actually, for GGAL. They are popping off tomorrow before the bell. Not that that's going to matter now, I don't think. They were at $12.50 when we ran this report, so obviously they've moved quite a bit. They were pricing in about $1.25. In the past, they've moved about a quarter, 29 cents. So they're pricing in already $1 worth of extra juice. And guess what? Not enough. This thing popping hard off the Rock Lobster's favorite Wolverine style politician making it into office over there. Intriguing stuff. Now we go from Wolverine's listeners to our old friend, the Hun. In particular, this is, if I could get rid of it, there we go. Thank you, machine. All right. This is, of course, our old friend, the Huntsman. Ticker symbol, the Hun, HUN. We talked about them before, but it's been a little while. Trading $24.94, right around $25. Kind of unched on the day today. On the year, not a great year, not a terrible year, but they're off. They're not carrying the AI wave to the stratosphere like a lot of the others are, or riding it, I should say. They were trading $27.40 about a year ago. They topped out right around February 2nd, like a lot of these names did, at $33.46. Then they came for it, drove it down to about 23 3/4 before popping it again in August. Actually, no, excuse me, July 31st to 29 3/4. And that was kind of the near-term high. It's never really gotten back there. Then they crushed it down to its low for the year of about 22.14. That was right in the week leading up to Halloween. Since then, it's rallied a bit up to right where it is right now, right around $25. And it seems like, Mr. Rock Lobster, somebody is comfortable drawing a new line in the sand in the Hun, coming in this morning and blasting away at 8,555 of the D's 23 puts, getting a whopping 17 cents for these juicy bad boys. The stock was a little bit lower, actually, 24 3/4. Let's see, that is about a 30 vol. So, again, not bad for the Hun. There are earnings. Actually, no, I take it back. They already had earnings. There are no earnings in the cycle. The next announcement is on February 21st. So a little bit of straight up, maybe seasonal, harvesting a little bit of the old risk premium, taking 17 cents off the table nearly 9,000 times in your favorite name, the Hun. Mr. Rock Lobster, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, this is like the John Huntsman chemical. He makes chemicals and plastics and all kinds of stuff like that. Actually, you know what he started with? Those egg cartons, those styrofoam egg cartons. That's where he made his first big bucks.
From one toxic thing to another.
Exactly. And I, it's funny. I just saw an article on this guy who I guess it's his son now is running the company. They're trying to have a less toxic stuff. I don't think they even make styrofoam egg cartons anymore.
I would hope not. I don't think those are allowed anywhere now.
So yes, but they do make chemicals and all whatever. So
they probably made the old Big Mac styrofoam containers as well. Remember back in the day, you used to get those at McDonald's too.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's never like great eating out of them. You know, I like those new I have to say, I do like those paper recyclable things. They're better house for my Big Mac.
I think the Earth likes it as well. a little better than all this styrofoam.
Yeah. So But yeah, as far from a chemical company, yeah, line in the sand put looks perfectly reasonable. And of course, it has all the hallmarks. It has 17 cents, 8,000 times is about right. This is like a junior Ferrari, though. This isn't like, one of those new Enzos or something really cool. This is like, it's like the Magnum PI one, kind of, which of course was a very cool car anyway in its time.
I was going to say, wasn't that a good Ferrari? Was that a garbage Ferrari he was tooling around in?
Yeah, that was just the 8-cylinder though. It wasn't a 12.
What did Sonny Crockett have? He had a Testarossa, right, in Miami Vice. That was a good one.
He had.
Which,
that.
of course,
he had a Daytona.
Every beat
first.
cop on the planet drove a Ferrari Testarossa.
Yeah. Well, didn't the first one get blown up and he got a new one?
I think so.
I'd have to remember.
He also lived on a boat with a crocodile, so very much living the beat cop life of Vice.
Yes, yes. Again, it's hard pressed to find a better police drama than Miami Vice. Like they can't even invent anything that good.
Certainly musically, that was Michael Mann. Michael Mann, a great director. He kind of cut his teeth back then around that time. So yeah. He makes some good stuff.
Yeah, he definitely does. But Huntsman, yeah, I think just line in the sand puts, a solidly profitable company making chemical stuff, and I think these puts will probably pay. Certainly, some nice lady is getting a new Ferrari. That's all I can say.
All right, we'll see. And we put this last one in here for our buddy, the Meatball, because he's usually on the Monday show, and I know he loves this name. This is another example, man, how the mighty have fallen. It's not all Magnificent Seven this year, listeners. This is Farfetch. This is kind of that online e-commerce for beauty products. Meatball was all over this not too long ago. This one, ticker symbol FTCH, man, how the mighty have fallen. The stock trading $1.76 right now, listeners. Kind of unched today. On the year, they're off nearly $6 or 76%. So a rough one. The high was nearly $9. That was back on November 30th. So they've had a rough one, listeners. Even though I started the year around $5, and they still have managed to come off. So yeah, just a rough one. And looking recently, the most recent that we talked about, it was actually back on Options Oddities, you and I, Mr. Rock Lobster. Back on the August 25th show, we talked about someone buying 20,000 of the Jan 3/2s, paying 32 cents for these bad boys when the stock was $2.85. As I just mentioned, listeners, the stock $1.76 right now, so those are not looking great. I'm guessing you can get all the 3/2s you want right now for about a nickel. So maybe a dime if they're crazy. But those are not looking bueno at all. So fast forward to today, Mr. Rocklops, another sign of how the mighty have fallen. Not only are they no longer buying calls in this name, somebody's scooping puts when it's already $1.76. Coming in this morning, buying 5,157 of the Dees 1/2 puts for 13 cents. They bought another 4,267 for 12 cents, obviously doing those on splits. So buying nearly 10,000 of the Dees 1/2 puts. So no longer are they swinging for the upside. They're saying, this thing is dead, stick a fork in it, and I'm going to buy some near-dated puts, sir. What say you? How the mighty have fallen in Farfetch, sir.
The only thing I'll say about this year, this is the year of people buying puts below $2 and having them pay.
And working out, yeah.
I mean, we had Credit Suisse, and we just had another one not recently, not too long ago. It'll come back to me in a second, but I just have to say, when people are coming after these puts below 2, not time to buy, not time to get in. And somebody who bought 1.5 puts in our favorite Oatly, of course, would have made some money on those as well. So
we can't look askance.
Just because it's below 2 doesn't mean it can't go farther.
Being diehard Oatly aficionados, we cannot look askance at 1/2 or 1 puts. All of those would have been quite juicy trades. And you know what's also a juicy trade, listeners? It's whatever the Uncle Mike's got in store for us, so let's get to it. A little bit of the old strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, everybody, time for the strategy block. Time for Uncle Mike to tell us his favorite strategy for hedging stocks under $2. Mr. Uncle Mike, how many 1/2 puts do you like to buy in sub $2 names, sir? Go.
Well, I have an old expression. If it's under 2, then there's nothing I can do.
Oh, there you go. A little bit of rhyme in action. You've been hanging out with the Viceroy a little bit too much, or perhaps not enough.
Well, I mean, I typically don't like stocks under $10 or $15. So, I mean, I guess I don't even mess with those stocks. So I guess that's kind of where I go.
Allow me to introduce you to Oatly. I think it was around 80 odd cents last I checked. So it was 50 cents not too long ago. So Oatly, making fortunes, sir, and stealing hearts.
I need to get into that then, I guess. So, but anyway, on a shorter week like this week, I kind of want to get back to the basics in terms of strategy, just to make sure you have an understanding of it, and something that a lot of our listeners may or may not really do a lot. And so I just want to talk a little bit about order types. First off, and this will start off very basic, if you really want to get into or get out of a stock or an option for that matter, you can put in a market order. I want to buy this many shares or this many contracts at market, and then you pretty much get whatever price is there. You get what you get, and you can't throw a fit. Speaking of rhyming. So that's the basic way of doing it. Now, the advantage of a market order is that you will get filled. The disadvantage of the market order is that you may not get the exact price you want. There might not be enough contracts or shares available at the price that you're seeing. Or someone else may take that order away from you as you're doing it, and you might not get what you want to get. So advantage of market orders, you're going to get filled. It just might not be for what you want. Now, of course, there are certain times to where there are fast markets to where you might not get filled right away with a market order. I have experienced that, but those are very rare. Now, the next order type is, of course, a limit order. Now, a limit order means that you're going to be filled at the price you ask for or better. So let's say you want to get into a stock, and you can do the same thing with an option. The stock's trading at $51, but you're like, hey, I want to buy it at $50. You can put in a limit order saying buy it at $50. So that means that the order will sit there, but it won't get filled until it can fill you at $50 or better. Another reason I say or better is that let's say the stock were to gap down to 49, no one's going to complain about getting filled at 49 when you could get filled at 50. Same can work on the way out. It can work the same way on the way out. If, let's say, you own a stock, it's at 52 and you want to take profit when it gets to 53, you can put a sell limit order in at 53 to get out of it at that time. Now, a couple of ways that you can actually set it and forget it, so to speak. Now that it's a set it and forget it type of week, if you're not able to be by your screen all the time, you can put in what's called a good till canceled order. Now, most orders, by default with most brokers, or at least every broker I've ever seen, they default to a day order, meaning you can put in the order and it'll just be good for that day. At the end of trading that day, it's done. The order doesn't exist anymore. However, if you put in an order GTC, or I should say good till canceled, that means that the order is going to be good. Excuse me. That means the order is going to be good, typically for 6 months, depending on your broker. Now, some brokers will make it literally good till canceled. I mean, it will never cancel, but a lot of times it's up till 6 months. And so if you do have standing orders out there, hopefully you're checking them at least maybe once a week or something like that, to where if you don't check something for 6 months, then it's a problem. Now, it could be less than 6 months. It depends on your broker, but just make sure you have an understanding of that before you actually do a good till canceled order. Now, there's a lot of other order types that are available out there, and a lot of brokers will have them in such ways to where you can do maybe a one cancels other, one triggers two, one triggers other, trailing stops, walk limits. There's all sorts of orders out there. I could go on for hours, and I literally have at some points in my career in terms of order types. But make sure you have an understanding of them, because a lot of times your broker will be able to do what you want him to do or her to do, but you just need to know what's available. And that is my strategy block for today. Stay tuned for Around the Block. My annual Thanksgiving joke is coming.
I was going to say, you haven't given us your joke yet. We're all waiting with bated breath. I guess instead, listeners, we have to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
And what Uncle Mike says about good till cancel orders is worth checking with your broker, because I remember putting an order the other day and I noticed, this platform I was using, their good to cancel only lasted 60 days. So 2 months effectively. So again, bear in mind that good till cancel is gonna be different and worth checking over there on your platform as we keep on rolling. Speaking of checking, let's check in really quickly with our brand spanking new, kind of silly seasonal holiday question of the week leading into Crypto Rundown coming up a little bit later today. Everyone's got crypto on the brain except for Uncle Mike. He still owns BitcoinReallySucks.com. But right now, we're asking you quite simply, will the new spot Bitcoin ETF be approved this year? Yes or no? Very simple. Our audience apparently can't make up their mind, exactly evenly split in the early voting, 50-50. This will run through the Thanksgiving holiday, so it's our question of the week after all. So get out there, have some fun, kick the tires, have a little bit of fun out there. Speaking of fun, we talked last week on our show about pattern day trading, inspired by our guest, and we had a poll saying quite simply, is pattern day trading, is it an outdated concept or should be kept around because it protects traders? 85% of you said it's outdated, 15% saying yes, it protects traders. So a lot of fun to be had as we go around the horn. Let's do a combo around the block and what you got cooking for our listeners because we're already coming up against it. We'll start with you, Mr. Rock Lobster. What are you keeping an eye on? Obviously, no show on Thursday, so all the way through till next Monday. And then B, if our listeners want more Rock Lobster in their lives, where should they go? What should they do for some good goodies?
Well, I'm looking for NVIDIA earnings. If they're good, I think we'll see 4,600 this week. Hard to believe, but we were just 4,500 last week. 44, 43, 42, 41. And then for all our listeners, Weekly Profit Cycles is coming back to Option Pit on the 29th of November. So you want to learn how to trade an uncorrelated strategy to the market. Use that Vixen Spy. Come on over and check us out at optionpit.com.
There you go, optionpit.com. And we've all been waiting all episode long. It is finally here. Mr. Uncle Mike, give us your annual joke for Thanksgiving. B, what are you watching until our next episode next Monday? And C, where should folks go if they want more Thanksgiving tomfoolery in their lives?
Well, just checking in with the markets from time to time throughout the day, looking at my orders, seeing what's happening, but not too much. I don't think we're going to have a ton of movement this week because I stated earlier. If you're interested in getting more of Uncle Mike, follow me on Twitter at MikeTosaw, TOSAW, or check out my website, stcharleswealth.com, if you're looking for a financial advisor who does delve in the option product if it's appropriate for the client, of course. And now, for my annual Thanksgiving joke. By now, you should have already sold your pumpkin futures. Halloween has been over for almost 3 weeks. Do not buy Christmas tree futures. It's way too early for that. But stay away from turkey because they have no future.
Bum. You've been waiting for his one annual joke. There you go. That's it. That's it for the humor from Uncle Mike. It's all serious business the rest of the year. If you want serious business for yourselves, only one place to go. BitcoinReallySucks.com. No, I'm kidding. StCharlesWealth.com, the place to go. That music means we got to get on out of here. Back again in a little bit for the Crypto Rundown with our guest this week, rolling out the crypto hot seat for the folks from Bitnomial. That should be fascinating. A new player, a new foray into the world of crypto derivatives. We'll find out what they got up their sleeves and a whole bunch more. What's driving all this crazy upside and all things crypto. We'll get to it in a little bit. Back again on Wednesday for a little bit of the old options boot camp. Not going to leave you educational folks hanging. Then, of course, off for Thursday, so no episode 2 with the Flow Mass this week. I know, wah-wah, we all miss them. We'll be back again next Monday, another episode of The Option Block. Have a great holiday, listeners, and most importantly, with all this Black Friday madness going on, don't get trampled by a grandmother. Stay safe out there. We'll see you back here on the Crypto Rundown coming up, then OBC on Wednesday, then back again next Monday, another episode of The Option Block.
The Option Block is brought to you by tastytrade. You take the unbeaten path. You root for the away team. You wear shorts in winter. You don't put ketchup on a hot dog. So why wouldn't you trade with a broker that lets you go your own way? tastytrade. Stocks, options, futures, and more. You choose. You trade. Chart moves with hundreds of custom indicators. Stare at the candles till you see them in your sleep. See it, click it, trade it on mobile, web, or desktop. Supported by a trade desk that knows how traders think. The data, the tools, the knowledge. Get what you need to make smart moves. Go to tastytrade.com/pod to see for yourself, genius. tastytrade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.